Greetings, YouTube world. If you've been watching the videos on the channel here the past couple of weeks, you know I had the chance to take a really nice buck early in November during kind of my deer week. That's the time of the year early here in November in Kansas where I take some time off and my brother and I chase deer back on the family farm. So there's a hunt video that goes with it, and actually this year it went really quick. I managed to shoot one of the bucks we'd been watching the very first evening, only a couple hours in the stand, and there's some kind of reasons behind maybe why it happened so quick, and some backstory on that. And actually the whole story, if you're interested, we did a podcast on it over on our Hunting Stories podcast. I'll drop a link in there and hear somewhere about that. But I want to do a little bit different video here and kind of explain and talk a little bit about the backstory of this deer and some of the history we had on it. This year I started referring to him as Scar. Don't really name our deer a whole lot, but this one's actually had a couple of names because we've had a fair number of years of history with him. Really the best being this year and last year. So talk mostly about those. This buck, I don't have a firm age on him. Kind of wish I did, but best guess is probably 4.5 or 5.5 year old deer. Kind of looking at some of the body features and some of the history we have with him, he's definitely in that range. Going back to 2021, so last year we had pictures of him in velvet throughout the year. Obvious, the same buck, double brows and some extra little points, kind of a mainframe tin with some extra stuff on him. So we had velvet pictures of him through the year, and then once the rut rolled around, we kind of lost sight of where he went. So late October, early November, we didn't see him much, except that when we got out actually hunting, we kept seeing this big-bodied deer, but looked like a spike. He really only had two points, or two sets of points coming off straight off the top of his head. And as we saw him more and more, we realized it was actually this buck, and he had sometime in late October, through fighting, busted off both sides of his antlers completely. So we started referring to him as the broke beam buck. And Derek had a really good encounter and got him on video early November on one of our stands there. And so you can really see quite well, both sides busted off. And somewhere in that process, actually it would have been the previous year, he had inherited a giant scar along kind of the full length of the right side of his nose, and so that's kind of where I nicknamed him from. So 2021 came and went. Would have been cool to find the sheds, the little nubbins, but didn't really see much of him late that year or in the winter. 2022 rolled around and deer started putting on antlers, and we got just tons of pictures of this buck in velvet. In fact, probably more pictures of him than any other deer on the farm. Super obvious which one he was, super regular. We'd get pictures maybe every couple of days on one end of our farm. And it's kind of interesting because throughout the whole spring and summer, and really into real early fall, he was on one end of the farm, our far west end of our farm. That's where we got pictures of him. Middle late September, early October, he disappeared on the one end and showed up nearly a mile away on the other end of the farm, and started getting pictures of him there. Once kind of went into Hardhorn, that's where he moved. He moved to the other end of the farm, got pictures of him fighting, being real aggressive. And so we kind of had an idea he had switched his range a little bit. Of course, with the rut going on, you really kind of never know where they're going to end up, right? Find a hot doe, and I mean, he could have been 5 miles away. But we had an idea which end of the farm he'd be on, and the first evening I was able to get out, the weather was just right, and we kind of knew where the does had been hitting the food in the evening, so took a shot at one of those locations where there's going to be food and had a pretty good idea that's where the does would be. And turns out he followed some smaller bucks and some does up there, and I was able to get a real nice shot on him there. Once I got him in hand, he was exactly what we knew him to be, kind of an older, heavy buck, not a huge scoring buck in the 150 range, but just lots of neat stuff going on. Ended up being 14 total measurable points, 6 on one side with the double brows, and then 8 on his right side with the double brows, an extra little point between the G2s and 3s, and a little kicker coming off his base. So really interesting to have this much history with this deer. It's one of the really cool things about being able to run trail cameras is that you get a good picture where you can kind of fill in these details of a deer's year. And you're able to really to hunt them and follow them year round. So my hunting season went really quick this year, but was super excited and just super honored to be able to take this deer that we had so much history with. So can't wait to get back out. Still rifle season going on here now. It's early December. Derek's still got a tag to fill and some nice deer we're watching there. But then once winter hits, it'll be fun to find some sheds and watch them start growing antlers next year. Thanks all for watching.